Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky met with President Trump at the White House today. Zelensky was in town for Senator Lindsey Graham's funeral. Now, Trump appears to have significantly warmed to Zelensky, and it's not an accident. As I shared with you all yesterday, Zelensky had carried out a strike against an Iranian vessel in the Caspian Sea and argued that it was a justified strike because he alleged that Iran was sending Shahed missiles to Russia, which Russia uses against Ukraine. Now, Iran says that they were shipping steel to Russia. There's no way of me confirming who's telling the truth, but nonetheless, this is obviously an escalation involving Ukraine kind of getting themselves involved in this war, even as they have their hands full attempting to fight off Russia and the ongoing invasion that Russia carried out beginning in 2022. Now, the Ukrainian president has tried to charm Trump quite a bit, and it's part of this concerted campaign by European leaders to improve Trump's relationship with Zelensky so he will be more willing to help supply weaponry to Ukraine to fight Russia. But more importantly, Trump has come to admire Ukraine's drone industry, especially its ability to defend against the same drones the US faces in the Iran war. Trump, a senior administration official, said, likes winners, and Zelensky, in the US president's estimation, is increasingly looking like one. And look, that is a huge change, a complete 180 from what we saw with Trump and Zelensky in that Oval Office meeting just last year, where Trump essentially called Zelensky a dictator. You had JD Vance essentially telling Zelensky that he needs to be grateful. It was a very tense and awkward moment. Trump had even paused all weapons and intelligence sharing with Ukraine following that meeting. Now things are different. Republicans on Capitol Hill, including Senator Graham, worked overtime to basically patch things up between Trump and Zelensky, and it seems like he made quite a bit of progress doing that. Trump was impressed there was a heavyweight Ukrainian boxer who visited him in the White House, in the Oval Office specifically. This was last month before the Ultimate Fighting Championship cage match at the White House. So Alexander Usyk is his name. Usyk told Trump that Ukrainians are fighters and winners, just basically using the kind of rhetoric that tends to appeal to Trump. And apparently he made a good impression on him, especially after he gave Trump a signed boxing glove. The two men bonded over their love for the late Muhammad Ali. And so at that point, Trump was starting to warm up to supporting Ukraine more in their fight against Russia. Trump now sees Putin in a less favorable light. According to two people familiar with his views, Trump's desire to improve US drone warfare, though, is really what has a lot to do with this, okay? Like, yeah, you can butter Trump up, but he likes cookies. So what kind of cookies can you give us? And believe it or not, despite the fact that we're spending already over $1 trillion a year on our military, the United States is shockingly behind when it comes to drone technology, and so Trump is seeking to learn and to get some of that technology for our own purposes. Trump announced at the NATO summit as well that the US would consider granting Kyiv a license to produce US Patriot missile interceptors, and he expressed interest in joining with Ukraine on drone production. And yeah, look, there's a lot more to share with you. Like, for instance, the Ukrainians have been defending against Iranian-made Shahed suicide drones, fending off the types of attacks that apparently the US military is dealing with as well in the Middle East. Over the course of the war, Ukraine has transformed into a military drone powerhouse. It went from producing around 5,000 drones a year in 2022 to millions a year in 2026, according to data from Ukraine's government. And yeah, Trump loves quid pro quo. He wants something out of this relationship, and he sees this as a potentially beneficial relationship. And that's, I guess, fine. But what I'm more worried about, Cenk, is this war against Iran snowballing into something much greater, something much bigger that puts the lives of Ukrainian civilians at even more risk and more danger. Because the fact of the matter, guys, and I've said this on the show before, I'll say it again, we are low on interceptors. We are unable to supply Ukraine with the interceptors. They take years to make. So even if Trump gives them the license to build their own, it will take years to make. This is a huge gamble by Zelensky, and it does appear like he's trying to merge the war.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah, so I'm kind of burying the lead here because I think there's two huge things here. Number one, I'm done officially with supporting the Ukrainians' war. So it's been a long time now. I don't know, they seem like they've been at war for about 18 years now. So the reason I was in favor of it, because Russia attacked them. It was definitely Russian aggression. Yes, there were reasons and excuses, etc. Bottom line is, you attack someone like Israel attacks Lebanon, it's Israel's fault. Russia attacks Ukraine, it's Russia's fault. So number two, we had promised the Ukrainians defense when we had them give up their nuclear weapons. Okay, but now we've supported you for about 87 years in a row in this war. There's a limit to how long we can go. What if the war goes for 2 centuries? Do we still owe you, right? So now, the second issue is that Ukraine has now become basically Israel. Now, why do I say that? We're a rare show that talks about this phenomenon. It's really important. Remember, Russia was helping Iran and Syria. Israel needed Russia distracted so they could topple Bashar al-Assad. Oh wait, that happened, didn't it?
It did, yeah.
During the Ukraine-Russia war. And that Iran couldn't be helped when Iran was attacked. Oh right, that also happened during the Ukraine-Russia war. So Ukraine and Israel working together to keep Russia busy so that Israel can attack its neighbors and take more territory. So before that was apparent to people who were paying attention. Now it's more than apparent, it's obvious, because Ukraine is literally joining the war and attacking Iran, right?
Yes, and in fact, Cenk, just to provide some receipts to bolster what you're saying here, you guys all need to read the 2018 paper that was put out by the RAND Corporation called Overextending Russia. It's basically the anti-Russia version of the anti-Palestinian clean break memo. But it's even more overt, it's even more candid about what the game plan is. You get what I'm saying? So Russia invading was wrong. But I think that it's a mistake to think that Russia invaded for no reason at all, and that there was no provocation in the lead up to that, especially as it pertains to, the very overt discussions that were taking place at these international conferences about Ukraine joining NATO.
Yeah, so look, I hope to God that Trump, is done with Netanyahu, and I just told you I think it's 50-50, right? And that we try to get out of this war, memorandum of understanding, all that, right? But remember, even if that's true, there's still a 50% chance that this war continues and actually increases, escalates, right? That's a 50% chance at World War III. That's the lead that we're burying and everybody's burying. Because why do I say that? Now, I never said World War III before. A lot of people said World War III in many different instances, and I thought it was hyperbolic, okay? But wait a minute now. So now we have Iran and Israel and America at war, but also Lebanon and the Palestinians, kind of, although they have no weapons, they're just there to get slaughtered. And then the Houthis join in with Iran, and now Saudi Arabia and the Houthis. And remember, Iran attacked the Gulf countries, so now Kuwait and even Jordan, and let alone the Gulf countries like UAE, etc., are involved. Bahrain. So now there's already a gigantic war. And then Ukraine comes in and hits Iran. So now Ukraine is on the side of Israel and theoretically America, or at least the American president. And now Russia's on the side of Iran. But wait, it gets worse, because Lindsey Graham's last act was demanding that we do sanctions against China and India for doing trade with Russia. So they're now putting China and India on the other side of the war, potentially. Right? They haven't taken any physical action yet, kinetic action yet, but now we're financially putting them on the other side of that. Now it's not anywhere near an exaggeration to say, yeah, this is what a world war looks like.
In fact, now that it appears the United States is increasingly overextended, North Korea is openly talking about making moves to reconnect with South Korea.
Oh. Super interesting.
Yeah, that's in the news as well. Maybe I'll do a deeper story on that tomorrow. But yeah, I am worried because this war against Iran has already snowballed. And what's even more concerning is the various individuals involved in promoting support toward Ukraine. And one of those people happens to be Laura Loomer, who recently did a complete 180 on Ukraine. And I want to show you a little of what she had to say during her meeting with Zelensky and what she felt after her visit. Take a look.
I've received messages all day from different people in media and politics and people just who follow me online who said, wow, I didn't realize how much we've been lied to. Wow, you really opened my eyes. Or wow, that I had no idea that they had tougher anti-Semitism laws in Ukraine than they have in the United States, right? And people really honestly believe in the United States that this is a country run by Nazis and that this country is full of Nazis. That's what people believe. And I mean, I was shocked too. I had no idea. I came here and I had to learn all this information myself, but I was consuming media that was propaganda.
So during her trip to Ukraine, Laura Loomer toured the Skyfall drone facility, which Senator Lindsey Graham had visited shortly before he died. And the Wall Street Journal reports that Trump and Loomer have talked on the phone several times since her trip. She explained her change of heart by saying she was tricked by Russian propaganda and praised Zelensky as a wartime leader and an essential ally. And Politico Playbook, by the way, reported something today that I think is extremely concerning because Laura Loomer already has a lot of influence over the Trump administration, and it looks like she's seeking more. They write that Lindsey Graham's death has left Washington debating who might take on his mantle as the influential and effective war hawk in President Donald Trump's ear, because apparently there aren't enough. Laura Loomer apparently raises her hand, has a name in mind. Loomer told Politico, maybe that person has to be me. I'm not saying I'm going to run for Senate, but I would like to serve as an envoy for President Trump.
Yeah. So here's my sense of what's happened, because Laura Loomer is such an interesting wild card. So when you see Ben Shapiro and Mark Levin talking, they almost always have the exact Israeli talking point that Netanyahu is trying to put out, that Rupert Murdoch's media organizations put out. So and by the way, US congressmen and senators put out. You can see it and we track it, and it's identical. I believe those people are directly coordinating with the Israeli government. Now, on the other hand, you have people who are loosely just love Israel, but I don't think are coordinating with the Israeli government, like Jake Tapper, Dana Bash, etc. Their gut instinct is always Israel is right, Muslims are the enemy, etc. And so they help, but just because of, I think, their natural inclinations, etc. Then Laura Loomer is an interesting one, because you think like, wait, she's like more Israel first than anyone, right? Not exactly. So before, she hated India, she hated Ukraine, right? And then all of a sudden, during the campaign, if you remember, 2024 campaign, Trump and Loomer started hanging out a lot, and then there's the pictures of Trump holding Loomer, etc. Next thing you know, Trump wins, and Laura Loomer keeps going to the White House and firing people. Now, that's an extraordinary amount of power for a dingbat to have, let alone one that really has no audience. I don't even know what she does. Does she do a podcast? I don't even know, right? So she has, like, out of nowhere, one of the most radical people, social media influencer, I guess, in the country, but with almost no followers.
Yeah, she does a show on Rumble, I think.
Yeah. Okay, I guess, okay. And she gets to go to the White House. She's like, I want that guy fired, that guy fired. But how does she even know who to fire? At that point, I believe she starts coordinating with the Israelis. Now, this is my guess. We'll have to, if we ever get an honest American president, all of this should be deeply investigated with no preconceived notions, but we'll have the evidence, dictate where it goes. And maybe I'm not right? But what I see with my eyes is all of a sudden she gains extraordinary power. Then she flips on India, goes to India and goes, oh, India, we love you now. All of a sudden you love India. Why? Israel's trying to infiltrate India, right?
I mean, they're open about it,
yeah. And they sent a whole bunch of influencers to India. Remember, you hate Muslims, hate Muslims, hate Muslims, help us in destroying and murdering Muslims, right? So then she was so against Ukraine in that war. And maybe like in terms of being fervent and strident, maybe one of the most strident against Ukraine in that war. Now she flips on that, a total 180. And she's like, I have concluded on my own that Israel's on Ukraine's side. So all of a sudden, we love Ukraine. There are no Nazis in Ukraine. Remember how I was telling you there was Nazis in Ukraine? No. There's only Israelis. I mean, our interest, American interest, wink. So I don't know what happened between Laura Loomer and Donald Trump. I don't know if that's affected anything else, but she right there is kind of admitting, look, Israelis always need a warmonger in Trump's ear at a bare minimum, right? So now that our beloved Lindsey Graham has passed, then And Lindsay, good job. You made it to the end without us releasing the tapes. Okay, now we need someone else to step in and be that asset, right? And here she's literally raising her hand now, saying, I'll be the Israeli asset. Oh, we're friendly with India. Now we love Ukraine in the war. Great, now we love the Ukraine war. Why? Because now Israel, not now, she now realizes Israel loves Ukraine. And by the way, this is a funny, a little bit ironic compliment to Laura Loomer that she wasn't always in the tank for Israel. Like
Are you sure? I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, no, because if she was getting the same coordinated orders that it appears Shapiro and Levin and the others are getting.
No, Shapiro's a real believer. He doesn't need orders.
I know, but he has the same exact talking points.
No, okay, that's fair.
Right?
That's fair, yeah.
But before, Loomer didn't seem to have the talking points because she was against Ukraine and she was against India, right?
Loomer's a mental patient. I don't.
And my guess is that that the Israelis didn't use her, even though she loved Israel, because she's an escaped mental patient, right?
Yeah.
But once she became so close to Trump, they realized that's a useful person.
Yeah.
Okay. And Laura Loomer also cares deeply about money. And so that's another thing that should be looked into at some point if we ever have an honest American president again. Every time you ring the bell below, an angel gets his wings. Totally not true, but it does keep you updated on our live shows.